America knows Rex Tillerson as a man who served our country as Secretary of State, and for 14 years, he was Chairman and CEO of ExxonMobil. After graduating from the University of Texas in 1975, he joined Exxon as an engineer. During his 42-year career, Tillerson took a variety of domestic and international assignments, leading to him becoming the Chairman and CEO of ExxonMobil, the most valuable company in the world at that time. In his career, Tillerson traveled to over 100 countries and developed relationships with the most prominent government officials and business leaders in the world.
When you reached a certain level in ExxonMobil, you were allowed to go down to the vault and pick out a piece of art to hang in your office. So in 1983, I finally reached the level where I got a picture. And I picked this one out, and the title of it is Unity. And it stayed with me in every assignment and hung behind my desk as Chairman and Chief Executive Officer and President for 14 years.
But there's so much more to Tillerson than his business and foreign affairs achievements. He's an outdoorsman, a rancher, a fourth-generation Texan.
The first time I got transferred out of the state with Exxon, I got sent up to New Jersey, and that's where I began working internationally. And we were living on a little farm outside of Richmond, and as the moving van was pulling away and we were loading up the horses in the horse trailer to make the trip up to the farm I'd bought in New Jersey, I reached down in our arena and I grabbed a fistful of dirt, I put it in a Ziploc sandwich bag and I stuck it in my hip pocket, and I told my wife, if I die, I'm dying on Texas soil. Texas is home for me and my family, and I love North Texas in particular. I always wanted a ranch and wanted to spend my retirement with a ranching lifestyle around the people who are ranching people.
Tillerson was born in Wichita Falls in 1952. He's an Eagle Scout and graduated from Huntsville High School. He enjoys fly fishing and is an avid hunter. It's part of his DNA. Before Rex came along, it was his maternal grandparents that were the hunters in the family.
My maternal grandfather was really the hunter and outdoorsman in our family. I have his hunting license from 1944. He's got his Remington humpback built on the Browning patent there, and I have that gun.
Well, tell me about this picture.
Well, beyond quail hunting, my passion is fly fishing. I love to fly fish. And that's what my father loved to do. This was the last time I was able to take my father fly fishing. He was 88 years old, and we were fishing in some waters on a friend's place, and we both had a fish on the line. We got him in. The guy said, "Let me get a picture of that." And it's a fantastic memory of my dad and I getting to fish that one last time.
Tillerson credits the Boy Scouts of America with helping him become the leader he is today.
Well, scouting was really my life growing up. I mean, there were two things in my life as a young person: scouting and my church. It really gave me the value system that I kept the rest of my life and continue to keep and hold very close.
Tillerson served as national president of the Boy Scouts from 2010 to 2012 and as a devoted ambassador, helping guide the way for the future of scouting.
I personally am committed to give young people the kind of values that they need to be great American citizens, but great fathers, great family members, great community members.
Those of us that know, your story,
yeah.
You credit so much of that leadership, those skills and all of that it goes right back to the Boy
all
Scouts,
of it.
doesn't it?
Yeah, I tell people everything I ever learned about leadership, I learned in the Boy Scouts.
In 2019, the BSA dedicated the Rex Tillerson Leadership Center at the Summit Bechtel Reserve in West Virginia. The center comprises the Perot Family Leadership Wing, Ross Perot Leadership Hall, and the Reese Jones Foundation Leadership Veranda. As you can see from these pictures, Rex has recruited an all-star list of philanthropists to support scouting. The BSA erected a bronze statue of him to recognize his numerous contributions to scouting. Tillerson calls North Texas home and spends as much time as he can at his ranch in Wichita County. He subscribes to old-school ranching, working the cattle from horseback.
We try to preserve the old way that's always been done. We don't use ATVs. I have about 8 cowboys that come work with us, and our neighbor comes and helps. We help him. Well, this is a photo documentation of our spring cattle works in 2014 here at the Guide Mound Ranch, and I just wanted to document as much for my grandchildren as anyone, kind of the way cattle have been worked, you know, since the 1800s, and we try to stay true to the traditional cowboy way of working our cattle. There are a lot of action pictures in here to kind of give you a sense.
I mean, this is a really important part of your life.
Yeah, I tell I tell people the 3 best days on the ranch are spring cattle works. You get up on top of your horse, you ride out across the ranch, and that's the best way to really see the land is from the top of a horse. I think it's a great tradition that needs to be preserved. It's great for the kids. A lot of the folks, we've had grandkids come and watch, and kids come and watch, and I think it's good for them to get to see it, because I don't know, you know, I don't know how long it'll still be around, but at least on this ranch, it'll be around as long as I'm here.
Rex's wife, Renda, is a longtime member of the board of the National Cowgirl Hall of Fame, and she introduced him to his love for horses.
My wife is really the equestrian in the family. She's been at it our whole life. When we got transferred to New Jersey, I thought I was going to break her heart, but she jumped right into the first frontier barrel racing circuit of the Women's Professional Rodeo Association up there. She barrel raced all over New York, Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and we came back to Texas, and eventually she gave up barrel racing, and we got into cutting horses. We love the animals for their athleticism and their heart, their try, and you know, there's just you get a special relationship with the horses that you, particularly those that you show.
Ranch life looks good on Rex Tillerson. He summarizes it with this quote from English writer Jerome K. Jerome.
Come away from the den, come away to the quiet fields over which the great sky stretches, and where between us and the stars there lies but silence. And there in the stillness let us listen to the voice that is speaking within us. I think that's true whether you're talking about ranching or you're talking about hunting. Getting up early in the morning when it's quiet and listening to the world wake up. I think there's a lot of good reflection time there.
Tillerson has had a lot of opportunities to go back into the corporate world, but instead he says he wants to spend his time finding ways to give back.
We have a foundation, and our foundation mission is to use the Lord's blessings in ways that would honor Him.
Tillerson and his wife Renda support efforts that include the National Medal of Honor Foundation to build a museum in Arlington, Texas, the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum in Oklahoma City, the National Cowgirl Museum and Hall of Fame in Fort Worth, and the Boy Scouts of America.
Not as much as I would like to. Part of the problem is my hunting and fishing gets in the way. I've always said anytime you're in the outdoors, you're closer to God. You're closer to His creation, because He created all of this for us to enjoy. That's what the Bible tells you. You know, He made it for us.
The friendships he's made, the conversations he's had when hunting, will always hold a special place.
So it's important to me to preserve the future opportunity. I know a lot of my quail hunting friends, we all share the same worry. Are our grandkids, are there going to be quail for our grandkids to hunt in the future? Are they going to be here? That's what I want to preserve for the future generations. I want them to have these opportunities, get in the outdoors, appreciate God's creation, enjoy God's creation. That's why He put it here for us, and to have all those opportunities that I've been blessed with to have from the time I was a small child, and still enjoy them today.
Ladies and gentlemen, your 2024 recipient of the T. Boone Pickens Lifetime Sportsman Award, Rex Tillerson.
Rex, congratulations. So happy for you. I'm very happy for you.
Well, thank you, Pete, and thank Park Cities Quail Coalition for this very nice recognition, but more importantly, thank all of you for being here tonight, for purchasing tables, for being vigorous bidders in the silent auction and the soon-to-come live auction. You've heard from Pete where all of this goes, and that last part of the video, that's what it really is important to me, that we preserve these opportunities for future generations. In the Bible, in the book of Numbers, it is written, "Then a wind from the Lord sprang up, and it brought quail from the sea, and let them fall beside the camp, about a day's journey on this side, and a day's journey on the other side." That had to be one heck of a cubby rise the Israelites got to see. You saw in the video a photograph of my grandfather with his shotgun. I came to hunting somewhat later in life than many of you. My father did not hunt. He liked to fish, but he didn't hunt. And so I didn't really discover wing shooting or even deer hunting until I was in my late 20s. And I was down in South Texas, had been assigned to work in Kingsville, and of course that is like the epicenter of bird hunting, but I didn't know anything about it. And one of my colleagues, fellow engineer with Exxon in Kingsville, invited me to go quail hunting. Well, I didn't have a gun, and I said, well, I'd love to go. And so when I was back home in Houston on one of my visits with my parents, I remembered those guns that belonged to my grandfather. And I asked my mom and dad if I could have my grandfather's old shotgun. And my dad went back to a closet and he dug it out. It was in an old zipper case, and I took that gun back down to South Texas with me so that I could go on a quail hunt. That gun was a Remington Model 11. It was built on the old Browning patent. Many of you know the story. The gun was first manufactured in 1905, and there was a big patent lawsuit between Browning and Remington, and they worked it out, so Remington did manufacture the gun. Sometimes some people would affectionately call it the humpback. And they produced that gun until 1945. There were about 850,000 of them produced. The last 10% of them were really made for the war effort. So best I can tell from the serial number, that my grandfather must have purchased that gun in the 1930s. And this is my mother's father, which regrettably he died when I was only 4 years old. I think he and I would have had just some really, really marvelous times together hunting, because my mom has always said that I got his DNA when it comes to the out of doors. He just loved the outdoors. So I went down and went on my very first quail hunt ever. And this colleague of mine, a gentleman named Al Lackleen, and who died tragically very young from cancer, was taken way too soon. But Al grew up in Mathis, Texas, which some of you know is a little west of Corpus Christi, and so he knew a lot of farmers and people up there, and he said, well, we're going to go quail hunting this weekend. So we drove up to Mathis, and we didn't have dogs, so I had my 12-gauge humpback shotgun, and he had his gun, and our method of quail hunting was to walk the barbed wire fence lines. He'd get on one side, I'd get on the other. And invariably, with the tall grass or the mesquites that would grow up or the cactus pear that would grow around those fence lines, you're going to walk up a covey. And so generally, we'd walk up a covey or two or three, and we'd end up with 2 or 3 birds. That was about all it took for me to get hooked. And so from then on, I wanted to go quail hunting, and matriculated from the old humpback shotgun, which weighed a ton, and you couldn't swing it very, very fast, to a number of different guns I've owned over the years, to where now my weapon of choice is a Griffin & Howe 28-gauge side-by-side, which still number 521. I bought it from an estate sale in San Antonio, Texas, about 18 years ago, and I called the Griffin & Howe people, and I said, can you give me some history on this gun? And they said, well, all we can tell you is it was built in 1961, 62, but all our records burned up in a fire, so we don't know who the original owner was. So. But it is my very favorite gun. So I was asked to share a couple of my hunting story memories this evening as part of tonight's events. And so you saw one picture up there of myself and T.O. Clayburgh and President Bush 41. And so the 2 stories I was going to share involve both those guys, but they're separate stories. So we had a corporate hunting place in Exxon in South Texas, west of Freer, Texas, called the Tomas Ranch. And My mentor in quail hunting, Harry Longwell, is with me tonight. Harry and I hunted a lot of quail out at the Tomas together over the years, and he really taught me a lot about the gentlemanly conduct of quail hunting, and that there are just good ethical rules even when you're hunting. And I learned a lot about shooting quail from Harry, and we still try to hunt together once a year and get together. But we had a couples hunt one time, and Tio and Janelle Clayberg were there with Renda and I, and Janelle had shoulder surgery, so she couldn't shoot, even though she's an outstanding shot with a shotgun. So we went out, Tio and Renda and I, with the guides to shoot quail on the Tomas, and we came across some blue quail. We had some areas of the ranch where we had blue quail population, and any of that know Tio, he can really get excited. And Tio sees these blue quail going, and he hollers, "Blue quail, let's go get 'em!" And here he goes. He takes off running through the cactus and the mesquite, and I go running off with him, and I tell Renda, I said, "Just stay right here in the edge of the road. You'll be fine. We'll be right back." And so we went on this long run, and I think we ended up harvesting a couple of blue quail. So we turned around, and we're making our way back to the road where I had left my dearly beloved wife. And before I can get her in sight, I can see the steam rising up over the bushes around her, and she commences to really dress me down about leaving her out there all by herself in this wilderness. The guides had left with the dog. Nobody was there. She had her 28 gauge bred a silver pigeon, but she said, I could have gotten eaten by a bear or a mountain lion or a hog, and she still hadn't forgiven me for it. I hear about it all the time. But when I thought back on it, I was really proud of her because she recognized her 28 gauge silver pigeon was not going to shoot or kill a bear or a hog or a mountain lion. So she's really a quite sophisticated shooter herself. Second story I'd share with you involves President Bush 41, and this was in, I believe it was in December 2006, 7, somewhere thereabouts. I got a call from Charlie Wynn. Some of you in this room I know remember Charlie Wynn, great quail hunter himself from the Corpus Christi area. And Charlie called me and he said, "Hey, can you come down to the ranch this weekend? President Bush, 41, wants to go quail hunting one last time before he goes and has his hip replacement surgery," which he was having in early January. And he said, "I got Jimmy Baker coming, and can you come down and be the third?" And so I said, "Well, sure, I'll come down." So went down to Charlie's place, and the weather was not really all that great. It was kind of misting and drizzling. But we went out in the buggies and found a covey of birds, and we put the president in the middle because with his hips he really couldn't turn very well. So we thought, all right, we'll leave everything out in front of him and we'll take the wings. And we get a covey rise, and everybody fires, and Baker and I simultaneously say, "Great shot, Mr. President." So we had a bird fall. So we get back in the buggy and we go back out. We find another covey, and covey rise, shots are fired, bird falls. Baker and I say, "Great shot, Mr. President." And the president says, "Okay, boys, you can cut the crap." Says, "I didn't even pull the trigger that time." So we get back for lunch, and it had really begun to rain. And so I was on the sofa in the lodge taking a nap, and Baker had gone back to his little cabin to take a nap. And about 3 o'clock, President Bush burst through the doors of the lodge, and he's got his snake leggings on and his orange vest on and his hat. And he says, "Where's Baker?" And I said, "Well, I think he's asleep in his cabin, Mr. President." He said, "Well, go wake him up. We're going quail hunting." So I go knock on Jimmy's door. I said, "Hey, Jim." He said, "Yeah, what?" I said, "President says, get up, we're going quail hunting." He said, "Doesn't he know it's raining?" I said, "Yeah, I think he knows, but we're going quail hunting." So Baker gets up, and we put all our gear on, and we head out to go quail hunt again. And by the time we got to the field, the heavens opened up, and it just let us have it. So that was the end of that quail hunt. But we had a great evening of camaraderie and telling stories, and the president, I know, really had a good time, but I think Jim and I had a particularly good time that night. And that's kind of what quail hunting has always been for me, well, I love the sport because I do love to be in the outdoors and have always loved to be in the outdoors, hunting or not. I think as I indicated in the video, you really do get closer to God when you're in His creation and enjoy what He has blessed us with, and He did. He put it all there for us to enjoy and bless us with it. But it's also the friends and the colleagues and the people you spend time with, because while you're hunting, for a few hours a day, you're spending a lot of time in the lodge, lunch, sitting around getting to know each other really well and developing friendships that last a lifetime. And I have so many longtime friends, some of you are here tonight, that I have shared this enjoyment with, and I'm still making new friends with people that have been so kind as to invite me to hunt with them in Georgia, South Carolina, Wyoming, Oklahoma, Nebraska. It's just a wonderful, wonderful way to enjoy God's creation. My favorite time at the ranch is before the sun comes up, and I'm an early riser, and I like to get up and grab that first cup of coffee and walk out onto the east terrace at the ranch and kind of listen to the world wake up. First songbirds of the morning are starting to sing, and hear a hoot owl off in the distance calling, and the first rays of sun are just beginning to break over the horizon across the lake. And just before the sun comes up, I know all of you have experienced this, there's always this little rush of air. And that's created by that thermal difference of the sun hitting the earth on this side and it's still cold over on where you're standing. But you get this little rush of air right in your face, and I've always felt like that's the breath of God just reminding you He is still here. When the founders of our country completed work on the 4,200-word document that became our Constitution, the delegates were leaving Constitutional Hall in Philadelphia, and Benjamin Franklin, of course, one of the principal delegates, was leaving the hall, walking down the stairs, and he was stopped by a woman who said, "Well, doctor, what do we have? A monarchy or a republic?" To which Franklin replied, "A republic, madam, if you can keep it." When I'm standing out there in the stillness at the ranch and watching the sun come up and very quiet, I oftentimes think of Franklin's words, "A republic if you can keep it." And I pray that others are thinking of it too. God bless all of you and your families. God bless the United States of America.